Yo, what's going on? It's your boy Kenny Clutch on the Clutchvision podcast. I'm here sitting with my lovely wife, the queen, Miss Josilyne Thomas, and we are talking about her new book that is out right now called Pages of Hope. This is part 2 of our podcast, and we're going to get into it, man. So go ahead, babe. Pick up where you left off. You were saying that, your parents didn't know anything on what was going on until, months later. So elaborate on, what was happening in that situation with you right there.
They didn't know till I knew for a fact that we were really done. Mm-hmm. And not because I wanted to be done, because believe it or not, although the abuse was real, I wanted to stick it out and work it out and get help and have a successful marriage. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to be a statistic of being a divorced, woman. Yeah. And so I wanted to put that aside and get through it and fight for my marriage. Mm. But I knew that if I told my parents everything that was going on, they would have forced me to come home. Exactly. So I waited till a really, really long time to tell them, and the first person I told was my father. And,
Why your dad?
I told my dad because my dad's more calm than my mom. And my dad doesn't jump the gun. He's more calm, and he'll talk to me, and he'll try to figure everything out first, and then he'll move from there. And then I also wanted him to talk to my ex and try to give him a man-to-man perspective / speech, Yeah. So I told my dad first.
With situations like that, I find that men that try to give advice to broken men that are already in a relationship, have already done the damage, more times than not, what you say may not help. That has to be a God-driven miracle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Can't nobody change him but God.
It was like talking to a brick wall.
It is. Because in his mind, what he really wants is his real father. So another man trying to give him advice that he don't even know like that is going in one ear and out the other. You know what I'm saying? They not even trying to hear it. They'll sit there and give you the time and give you the respect, and you can say what you're going to say, but at the end of the day, they still going to go out and do what they want to do. They're not going to, take your advice like that. And maybe some guys are actually different that actually want to change. But in situations like that, many times they don't want to change, But you also put inside the book here, and here is the Pages of Hope book, guys. Please make sure you guys, inbox my wife, to make sure you guys get this book ASAP. And you talked about how he hit the older two, the oldest ones, Nana and Caleb.
Mm-hmm. He just showed a lot of anger and rage to them. There was
how old are they at the time?
Nana was 8 and Caleb was 3.
Okay.
And with Nana, she had gotten in trouble 2 times in school, and it wasn't anything major. And when she came home, he had a conversation with her, and it was 2 separate occasions, but it was a similar situation. I was at the stove cooking, and he was yelling in her face, and because she gave him a response where it was almost like, here we go again, okay, you're in my face type thing. He slapped her across her face 2 times. And the second time he did it, I remember clear as day, she literally fell out her chair. Her glasses flew on the floor. Sorry. Mm-hmm. His handprint was on her face. And it was shocking to me. She literally ran upstairs and just laid on her bed and cried. I argued with him for a bit, and then I went up to, you know, hug her and tell her that everything was okay and just, I guess, console her and stuff. But as a mom, I felt terrible. I felt terrible. Because then it hit me like, wow, maybe I didn't make a great choice in choosing the man that I chose to marry. So that happened 2 times, and I didn't know this until we got back to Jersey, but she told me that on one occasion he punched her in the stomach. And I didn't see it with my own eyes, but if she said it happened, I know it happened. With Caleb, they were outside, and I think he wanted his bike or something like that. And when Caleb came inside, his nose was bleeding. And Caleb was like, he hit me in my nose. He hit me in my nose. Like with an open hand, he popped Caleb. And I don't know if he meant to pop him in the mouth and he got his nose. It doesn't matter. The point was that you slapped him with an open hand in the face. And Caleb was literally dripping blood from his nose. So, yeah.
Yo, that's like... Yo, that right there... If you're that type of person... Get serious help, because there's no room for that in this world. There's no room for any man to do that to children. It's one thing to hit a woman, and that's bad enough, but then when you start abusing the kids as well too, so he pretty much is just like, you know, having a free-for-all on the whole house. At that point in time, you said you feel like you made the wrong decision, and what was the next move?
Nothing. We argued about it, and after that he apologized to them, told them he was sorry, he wouldn't do it again. They forgave him, and life moved on.
Yeah, but at some point, you know, sorry is just not good enough, right?
Right.
And where did you know, you also talked about that he called Dyfus on you in the book?
I didn't put that part in the book, but
okay.
He did. When we moved back to Jersey, I got a phone call, and it was Dyfus. It's now DCP&P. And they said, hey, we got a call. It was anonymous. We're not allowed to tell you from who. And they said I was an unfit mom. And at the time, I was living with my mom because I had just moved back to Jersey. So I was like getting my life together. And so, you know, they had to come out and check the house and talk to the kids and talk to everybody in the household and things like that. But obviously they didn't find anything because I'm a great mom. But I knew that it was him that called, but he acted like he was my kid's dad that was calling. So he said a fraud name, and it was just a bunch of lies on paper. And she was just like, I just had to come out because it was a call.
Yeah, son was bugging.
Huh?
I said that boy was bugging.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Yeah. He just wanted to make my life miserable, pretty much.
Right.
But she closed the case because she didn't find anything and everything was okay with the kids. But it's just the fact of like, how could you be so evil and cruel?
Yeah. So let's backtrack just a little bit. So where was the point at the breaking point where you said, all right, I'm done and I'm going back home?
I actually didn't say that I was done and I was going back home. I never did. And so I tried to get his help and he agreed. But then when we tried to get help, he sat in the room and said, I want a different therapist. And I'm like, this is marriage counseling. How are you going to get a different therapist? He was like, I only told you I wanted to talk about it so you stop crying like a baby. But really, I don't want to talk about it and I don't want to be with you. So I don't want to talk to no therapist. And so he ends up leaving that session and I sat there and just cried for hours with the therapist alone. And then I went home and then I tried to get another session in and he declined that as well. The session that we did go to was me having high hopes that he would say, all right, let's work it out. And that session, he literally got close to my face in front of the therapist, looked me in my eyes and said, I hate you. I don't love you. I never want to be with you again. We are done. Pack your stuff and move to Jersey. He was the one that signed all the paperwork through the military to get us back home, to send all of our stuff back home. And that was that.
Wow. So you fought tooth and nail to survive in your marriage, and God pretty much had a different plan.
Absolutely.
Clearly. So sometimes in life we try to do it our way, and we keep going and we keep going down this wrong path, and we know that it's wrong, we just keep doing it anyway. And it doesn't hit you until God says, all right, you just don't get it. And he uses that person to send you home. Now, thinking about it, years later, do you think that was probably like one of the best moves of your life?
Yes and no. I would say no, because I could have saved myself from a lot of heartache and hurt and pain. But I would say yes, because I wouldn't have the story that I have today to be able to help other women, and I wouldn't be who I am today. And during that time is when it literally drew me closer to God, because being in Hawaii, I had no one, like I said. So who else could I depend on but on God? And so when I say that the moments that he would abuse me and put his hands on me or do anything verbal to me, we had a huge walk-in closet, and I would literally run in there and get on my knees and just cry. And he would literally make fun of me. Like, oh, here you go again, running to your closet, crying like a little baby. When they say you run to the closet to speak with God, that's exactly what I was doing. I ran in that closet and I spoke with God, because I didn't know what else to do and who else to turn to. And, it was a few places that I would go to, because I was so afraid that I felt like I had to hide somewhere in the house until he calmed down. So it was literally, when I say a hide and seek game between us two, it was a hide and seek game. Because when he would abuse me, whether it was verbally or physically, I just picture it right now all over again. Running down the steps, we had 2 couches, which we had kind of like an L shape. So in between them, there was a little spot, like a little rectangle spot. And that's where I would go to hide. Or in the bathroom, but I would keep the lights shut off. Or in our closet, there was a walk-in closet, but I would always keep it dark. And it was like a repeat of itself. I would run down the steps, hide in one of those places, and he would turn the hallway light on. I just picture it all over again. Come down the steps. Where are you? I don't feel like looking for you. Where are you? Just come out, please. And he would walk around the whole entire house looking for me until he found me. And I'm sitting in a corner or in the bathroom or in the closet, literally in tears, crying, shaking, because I didn't know what to do. And a lot of the times the kids were sleeping and in bed, so they didn't know, what was going on a lot of the times. But a lot of the times they did. Like my daughter, physically, she saw me being abused. She saw him doing it to me. And but yeah, most of the time I was running and hiding in the closet in the dark, and he would come find me, and then he would pick me up, sit me on the couch with him, have a conversation with me. I'm sorry that I did this. I'm sorry that I'm this way. I promise I won't do it again. Let's make up and let's just go back to bed. And it was a routine. It was always happening the same exact way.
How often did it happen?
A lot. A lot. Way more than it should have. And at first it started with pushing, and then it started with grabbing me around my wrist, swinging me around, and then he let me go while I'm in midair and I'm like flying across the room. There was times he pushed me into the bed, pushed me into the bathtub with a huge belly at like 6 months pregnant. There was a time where I had a bunch of laundry folded, piled up on the bed, and he literally grabbed the laundry and slapped me across my face with them, slapped my glasses off my face.
So this psycho was pretty much basically trying to kill you in a sense.
Yeah. He would throw me on the bed, pull me by my legs, slap me across my face, like it was like happening constantly, like drag me by my ankles. There was another time that he jumped on top of me on the bed, put his hands around my throat, and was like strangling me. Wow. And I have pictures of the, hand marks on my face and my ear. He headbutted me before. I have bruises on my arm. I have pictures of bruises on my arm where you see his fingerprints literally on both sides because I'm so light skinned. I had rug burn. He slapped me across the back of my head. He threatened to kill me with his shotgun. I mean, if you, whatever, I mean, you think of it, he did it.
Wow. And yet you're still here today.
Yes.
And by the grace of God, fast forward and we start talking.
Before we get into that, I do want to say that I never knew that it was like this thing called, I think it's night terrors, if I'm not mistaken. But when he had left, there would be times that I would go to sleep and I would wake up in the middle of the night and just would wake up like frantic. And I'm having a dream, but I wake up scared and I'm sweaty and I feel really clammy and like I have to go to the bathroom and just like felt like throwing up, and my body just wasn't my body. And I wasn't eating. I was just going through so many things inside that I couldn't control because of the fear of him coming home in the middle of the night and doing something to us. We would sleep with nightstands in front of our door, me and the kids, because he started parking his motorcycle down the street so we don't hear him coming home, and he would sneak in the house to grab something, he said. But it was a fear of mine. What if he says he's grabbing something, but yet he's coming to try to kill us or do something, because people are crazy. So we would literally,
he's crazy.
We would literally sleep with a door, nightstand in our room and me with the kids in my bed because I didn't even want them in their own rooms. And we lived like this for a while, which was really, really scary. But I did get like a restraining order, and he wasn't allowed to come to the house unless he came with his sergeant and stuff like that. So at least we were somewhat protected, but still a piece of paper doesn't protect you fully.
Right. And then you end up, finally getting your stuff packed up, and you guys get to come home.
Yeah.
And what were your feelings on that flight home?
Still shame and hurt and embarrassment, but also a sense of relief because he wanted me to have the baby in Hawaii. But I felt if I had the baby in Hawaii, I probably wouldn't have ever left because it would have been, they had jurisdiction over him. I would have had to stay for a certain amount of time because he's a newborn. He probably would have told me some crazy stuff to keep me there. Right. And so I do feel that it was God's plans for everything to happen the way that it did. Because I got home literally, I think, 3 weeks before I delivered. Like 3 weeks before I delivered. And I had to get a sign off from my doctor because she knew everything that I was going through. So she okayed me to come home with a huge belly. And because usually they don't let you fly that late in your pregnancy. But she okayed me to come home because she knew everything that I was going through.
Right. So you get home and you get back to mom's house. Everybody knows everything. I think for me, from the outside looking in, it's like sometimes we're, even though we're going through a war, God is still protecting us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like that song, This is how I fight my battles. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. And it may look like, he was surrounding you with fear, threats, abuse, so much violence. But around that, God was, protecting you. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, maybe God may allow the enemy to come into play and be like, you can do this and you could do that, you could do this, but you can't kill him.
Right. But
Kinda
I
like
feel
Job,
like that
in a
drew me
sense.
closer to God.
Right. That's
So
what
I
I'm
kind of
saying.
like needed to go through that because I probably wouldn't have the relationship that I have with God now.
Right.
A, because he was all that I could depend on at the time.
Right.
And B, because I'm alive.
Right. So my point is, God will strip you down to barely nothing.
I had nothing when
You
I
had
came
nothing.
back. I had nothing.
Right. Done. Like no job,
No car.
no money coming in. You had
Nothing. No apartment because I lost everything.
Yeah, you had a bed and your kids, and at your mom's house.
Right.
So you was back home. You're how old are you? What you were what? 28, 29? About to be 30.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was about to be 30 years old at the time. I was like 28, 29.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes God will just strip all that down to get us to focus. And it's like, we got to learn the hard way.
Right.
When we had all the examples given to us prior to, you had all the signs. I always get like paranoid that, like, yo, recording. So, God will just strip us down until we actually get it so that we, focus in on Him. And before we continue to move forward, back in Jersey, was there anything else that, like, that He stripped you of? Like, what was He doing to you, or did you what ways did you try to fix it? I know you were saying there were things that you would try to do, but He just wasn't, He just wasn't like with it anymore. You know what I'm saying? So
I think he went into it with the mentality of, oh, if this doesn't work out, we'll just get divorced. But he told me something totally different. It was like, we're not getting divorced. Like, this is it for us, all this, but it was something different when it was reality.
right.
And so every time I tried to talk to him about something that bothered me, or that I saw in an email that he wrote to people that was inappropriate, or that he did with someone inappropriate, things like that, every time I would try to talk to him, like any wife or husband would do with their spouse, hey, can we talk? I didn't feel comfortable with this. Like, I felt some type of way. Like, it was just a conversation like that. It wasn't me snapping. It was nothing like that. It was literally me just having a conversation with him. And he didn't want that type of,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was always like, oh, here we go again. I don't feel like talking about this. Get out my face. I don't want to deal with this. And it was always push me away.
So how important is marriage counseling, premarital counseling?
Premarital counseling is super important because it gives you the steps to kind of like help prepare you for marriage and what to expect from your spouse, and just, it might let you see a lot of what you didn't see before, you know? Go ahead.
Like, I feel like, had you guys had the marriage counseling prior, things may have turned out to be a little bit better, but we don't know God's plan. I'm saying I'm glad that it didn't. You know what I'm saying? I hate the fact that you went through that.
I mean, I don't think so, honestly. Knowing him, I feel like even if we had premarital, no.
Because it's already in your mind.
He's super stubborn, and
he needed to change his mind so he could change the game.
The only way he would change
right.
is if he had God, and he didn't.
Yeah.
He said he did, but he didn't.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people say that they do and they don't.
They don't. A lot of people don't.
They don't. And
it's like a difference with saying, oh, you believe in God and you believe that there is a God, than actually having a relationship with him.
Right.
Because when I was in Jersey and he wasn't here, we would FaceTime and it was like, oh, let's read the Bible together. Oh, let's pray together. Oh, when we move to Hawaii, we're going to find a good church together and we're going to serve together and this, that, and the third. And none of that happened. When we moved to Hawaii, we didn't do any of that.
Yeah,
he never came to church.
Game,
right. We never, he didn't even want the draws. He was always pushing me away. That's another thing we struggled about. It was like, oh, I felt like I had to make an appointment with him to be intimate with him. And it was like, oh, no, I don't feel like it's like, I'm your wife. Like, hello, like, can we, you know? And he just wasn't with it most of the time. I felt like, A, I had to beg him or I had to make an appointment with him.
First of all,
I'm just being real.
First of all, that's a problem. For a man to deny his wife. You know how many men ain't getting none
for real
from their wife?
Absolutely.
And then you got a woman that wants to give it to you, and then you don't want. I'm gonna leave that part alone because you know that there may be something else there, but
like there was one time I was pregnant. I had a huge belly. In my mind, I was cute. In my mind, I had a cute belly. I carried well. I was cute. And so I came out with a really cute outfit, like for the bedroom. And he looked at me and was like, maybe you should save that until after you give birth. Like, in other words, to him, I look disgusting. Do you know what that made me feel like as a woman? I literally went into my closet and I cried my eyes out.
Wow. I feel like either A, in his mind, like his mind was already made up clearly, or, you know, and B, you know, he was either possibly doing something with somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are just things that pop up in my mind or whatever as a man. Like, when you're done with a woman, you obviously, you know what I'm saying? Because the number 2 need of a man, statistically, is known as sex. And when a man is not getting it or whatever from his wife, it's like, you know, automatically women think, oh, you're getting it from somewhere type of deal. You know, I'm sure those questions have popped up into your mind. If you feel denied because this is your husband and then he doesn't want you, like, you know what I'm saying? That's crazy to me, man. Yeah, bro. Brother has some serious issues.
Right.
So, but listen, man, I'm cool. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad that you know what I mean, that you ain't wanting no more for me. But and for those that are watching this, y'all probably thinking like, yo, like they're married and they're having this type of conversation. Absolutely. Because I want to learn everything about my wife. Literally everything. You know what I'm saying? And I'm curious because at the end of the day, I think that, you know, we evolve, so there are always new things that arise. And although I've heard the story before, it's told different now because she's more wise, she's more mature, she's in a different place in life with God.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There are levels to the story, and there's levels to how the story is actually told. And every person has a story, but there's levels to how the story is actually told. And I feel that the first time I heard the story, it was from an emotional standpoint. Absolutely. You know,
a broken woman.
A broken woman. You know, the next time I heard it, it was from someone that is actually healing from it. And if we talk about it now, this is, you know, coming from a woman who doesn't look like what she's been through.
Right.
That's a totally different level. And when I say level, there are levels to healing.
Right, because before, when I first would talk to people about my story, I couldn't tell the story without breaking down crying and feeling like a whole mess.
Right.
And now I could tell my story, and there's times where, you know, I could get emotional with certain topics, or, you know, certain times, but for the most part, I can tell my story and not break down crying like I used to.